I'm Chip Templeton here at the Mitchell Memorial Library on the campus of Mississippi State University. And this week is the weekend for our annual festival, this is the 18th year for the Charles H. Templeton Senior Ragtime and Jazz Festival. Now that's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful.
I don't know if I can say that again. I have as my guest today a great friend and an outstanding individual and musician, Ann Barnhart from Mystic, Connecticut. So welcome back to Starkville.
Thank you, Chip. Nice to be back.
We're always happy to have you. She and her fantastic husband, Jeff Barnhart, are part of our system here. Jeff's been the artistic director here for about 10 years.
Yes.
And we've had you here every year as well in some form or fashion. So you bring a lot of things to the table when you come. So let's kind of get right into that. And I tell you what, before we do that, let me pivot back to make sure our audience is educated on what we're talking about. So I mentioned that we're having this 18th annual festival, but it actually starts, it's a 2.5 day event. It starts this evening, as a matter of fact. Starts out with the Gadsby Gala, and then that's a fashion show that's all about the era of the 20s. However, this year we're going to be showing clothing from the 50s, so it's a little different. And that actually has something to do with music, because the sheet music covers have all this fashion that's been created to sell the sheet music, and we get to sort of study that, and fashion merchandising students here at MSU put on this fashion show of items that they have created after they've studied about it. So then we have 2 days here in the museum where we have various breakout sessions, mini concerts, silent movies, sheet music demonstrations, tours of the museum, et cetera, et cetera. And then in the evenings, we have 2 major concerts on a Friday night and a Saturday night, which Ann is a part of. So would you kind of tell the audience, now that they kind of know what the weekend is sort of about, what is the role that you're playing here this weekend?
Well, this weekend I am part of the Sweet and Hot Quartet, and that is a quartet made up of myself on flute and vocals, Jeff, my husband, on piano and vocals, and we have a wonderful percussionist coming from Davenport, Iowa, called Josh Duffy, and also we have a phenomenal young man that Jeff and I had the pleasure of meeting many years ago in the Lake District in a small town in England called Keswick. And he'll be with us, and he'll be playing cornet and trombone and guitar and banjo and all kinds of amazing things. So this is a little quartet, and we'll be playing everything from ragtime up through swing.
That is quite a lot of different things. That's what makes the evening concert so much fun, because you really don't have any idea what Jeff has prepared for our audience. He is the artistic director as well as one of the musicians, and if you've ever seen them play, you know that you want to see them right after you've seen them play again, because it's very entertaining. So that's a unique name. I've heard that sort of name mentioned before in the past. Is that some sort of historical significance to the hot whatever?
I think it's that, you take everything and you can go from sweet tunes, lovely ballads or gentle tunes, all the way up through hot numbers. And we actually have a quartet that we modeled this one after. This is the Sweet and Hot Quartet USA. We have a Sweet and Hot Quartet over in England that we do a lot of work with, and it's the same instrumentation as well. We have drums and banjo guitar over there as well.
Well, I think the other gentlemen that you mentioned have been here once before in our 18 years, so I'm looking forward to hearing them again and interviewing them as well. So when she says percussionist or she says this, I mean, these people bring something to the table that you probably never experienced unless you were here the year that they were here prior to that. We have the xylophone, we have all these percussion things. This is not somebody in a rock and roll drum set. These are items that you would have no idea that could be a percussion
Yes.
sound or instruments is something not of this, that hasn't been seen in decades before. So
And
you're going to learn and enjoy that.
Exactly, and I was very specific in choosing that word percussionist rather than drummer. Because Josh does consider himself to be a percussionist. He will play mallet instruments as well. And so those are melodic instruments, and he'll be reading a score, or he'll have it memorized. And so that does separate him from someone who is a drummer, who can be equally as skilled but it's just that a drummer would not incorporate those mallet instruments, vibes, marimba, xylophone. That's the basic difference between a drummer and a percussionist.
And TJ, he has quite a number of instruments that
He does.
he brings as well. I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but if you want to name some of those, our audience might enjoy hearing what they might possibly hear.
He'll play anything, and he may play multiple instruments during tunes depending upon what Jeff or he decides he wants to do. He'll have trombone, cornet with him, banjo, guitar. I don't know if he's brought anything else along, but I think that's probably enough.
Probably got a surprise.
That's probably enough. And he may change instruments during tunes depending upon the tune, or he may, back me up if I'm doing a vocal on a rhythm instrument and then switch to a melodic, a trombone or trumpet for a solo chorus.
If you would, Jeff, his style of piano is a little different from what some people are not accustomed to. Would you kind of explain his style and what that really means?
Well, I mean,
in a nutshell, the
talking
stride.
about the stride piano?
Yes.
He is what we would consider a stride pianist, and that is basically ragtime on steroids. And so with ragtime piano, you basically have a very steady oompa kind of bass going along like that. And then the stride pianists came along, and as people's technique improved and the pieces became harder, the technique of the pianists, they began to want to try and one-up the other one. So a stride pianist would involve multiple rhythms in the left hand,
It's like you
or
need at least 4
chords.
hands to do that. But.
Yeah, and so it's a much more muscular, aggressive, rhythmically complicated bass part, and then they would incorporate what they would call
it's very
tricks.
rich sounding.
Yeah, tricks in the right hand. And then he also plays, straight ahead jazz piano, and actually new age on the quiet days.
So if our audience kind of connects with your 5 people, it's going to be a lot of information they're going to get to see. So if you came on a Friday night for our concerts that at 7 p.m., you'll see all of our performers. In addition to the ones she's mentioned, we do have a gentleman named Lewis Ford.
Well, he'll be guesting with us on Saturday night, so
well,
you'll see him as well.
Very good. But and then Saturday night, if you came both nights, you're going to see the same musicians in a different order. You're not seeing the same movie, meaning you're going to see completely different songs. So in case you wanted to come both nights,
that's right.
You're not going to be hearing the repeat.
Oh no tunes repeated on either night, unless of course a $10,000 grant check, donor check comes in, then we'll repeat a tune, of course.
Another thing here, and I don't know exactly off the top of my head who's doing what, but some of the things that we do here at the festival during the week is we do some outreach segments. Sometimes some of our performers go to some of the local schools and so forth. So what are some of those that maybe you know something about that you might could share with the audience?
Well, I know Lewis has been out today working with the students in Starrville, and Jeff and I were out at French camp this morning and performed for those students out there.
That's a tradition for you to go to French camp,
is.
So you've done that.
It is, and that was very well received. The wonderful concert with them this morning, culminating in one of their own getting up and playing the first section of The Entertainer. And then Jeff,
how exciting.
She repeated it and Jeff played along with her, so that was really wonderful. And now Jeff is over working with the piano students. I believe he's over with Jenna.
Okay, great.
Right now.
So we work with the School of music education classes over there, so that's good. Yes, thank you for clarifying all that. That's important. You know, I remember growing up in you know, in my years of being in school, you know, some of the highlights, if I had to kind of write them down, it would definitely be people who visited my schools that did a whatever like you're doing. So the impact that you're having on them is something that, you know, for years to come in their lives, it's going to mean something to them. Or they may not realize it for years later, that they remember that point in time where someone came and worked with them or let them hear something they didn't know. So,
well, I think as time goes on and we get more and more involved in these little things that are in front of us, that kind of community interaction and reaching out to students is very, very valuable, because a lot of students will never have experienced someone creating music live.
that's true. And that's something, you know, post-COVID that we've come to appreciate, because we could not see live performances as well as you couldn't perform, or as you said.
I can remember, and this is one of those kind of frightening moments in life. Jeff and I were in Switzerland, and this has to be, about 10 years ago. And we were performing for a private high school reunion. And we were on this little stage, and in the middle of all of these Swiss young adults who have graduated from this school having a wonderful party, and this group of people were talking and having a conversation with each other, and they kept getting closer to me. And they bumping my flute and bumping into my back, and you know, for a little while I just kind of moved away, and then I just tapped one on the shoulder and said, if you don't mind, if you could just kind of give a little space. And he looked at me and he actually said, "Oh, I didn't realize you were making the music."
Oh my goodness.
And I stood there and went, he thought, I don't know what he thought. We were radios, or we were just other guests and the music was coming from the sky. And it was one of those times when I thought, wow, it's come this far and we've gone even farther. So I think these kinds of things where, especially in schools where music and the arts is one of those things that gets cut, Louis going out and being with the students, or Jeff and I being able to go out into the community, is very, very important.
I'm glad that it's nice to hear from you what that means from your vantage point. So thank you for sharing that. Let me change the texture of our conversation a little bit and go a separate route before we wrap up our segment here. We have a mutual friend that passed away last year, a man who was greatly admired around the world for his what he meant to the ragtime era and the study of 20th century music. His name was David A. Jason.
Yes.
We called him Dave lovingly. A very great man, and we miss him very much. He has a lot to do with my father, and when he started the collection here that's at the Charles Templeton Music Museum on the 4th floor here in the library. And then I got to know him when we started the festival area, like 20 years ago. And he became a very close friend because he taught me the love and joy of something I said I would never have any interest in, and that was looking at sheet music, and that being because of the covers, not for the music of which you perform, but the covers and what that says about the story of our country, the good, the bad, the sweet, the kind, the patriotic, the not patriotic, the racial, and everything in between. It's just, it brings together what we're about, all under the umbrella of the business of music and what all that entails of selling the music, the jobs it created, the new businesses that came out of it. But having said all that, to sum up what we're doing this year is that when Dave died last year, I had the opportunity to purchase from his private collection some very rare pieces that we didn't have in this collection, nor the Cleary collection, which you all helped us have a relationship with them to obtain. And so we have on display this week 48 of those pieces. I'm not going to put you on the spot about any of the pieces, but what I really want to talk about, if you would kind of let the audience know a little bit about what Dave brought, because we want to honor him in those sheets, this in a way to celebrate his life and what he meant to ragtime. So from your history of being a performer and being married to Jeff and knowing him, what would you say about Dave that our audience would need to know?
I think the single word that I can come up with is passion for Dave. He had a passion for ragtime. He had a single solitary vision of ragtime and took his whole life to kind of take it and bring it out into a public consciousness, and surrounded his entire adult life and career with the ragtime, buying the sheets, writing about it, studying about it, learning about it, teaching people about it, exposing people to it. That was passion, I think, is really what it comes down to.
That's a great term. The ragtime era, you can call it whatever segment you want, but in my segment, I'll say it's from 1900 to 1930. Some people cut it off a lot before that, but really it goes up even through today. And when it was a forgotten genre and it was trying to be rediscovered in the 50s or the 60s or the 70s, people really didn't know what was behind that came before. And so some people, such as Dave, my dad, Trevor Tetchner, other people, someone had to kind of figure out what's out there. And then Dave had his own definition for what ragtime is. Not everybody agrees with it, but that's fine. But he had the passion to do something that no one else did, and to dig deeper. And so if it had not been for Dave, we wouldn't know the difference between drinking a glass of water and going to the store to pick out a bottle of wine.
Right.
It's something that makes you study it. And so if our audience wants to Google his name sometime or come here, you'll find out a lot about him, of the books he wrote, of the passion that Ann talked about. And so I think that's a good place to stop.
All right.
What do you think?
I think it is.
So we want to invite you to come to our event here at the Charles Templeton 18th Annual Edition of the Ragtime and Jazz Festival here at Mississippi State University.
Absolutely. Come and
bring a friend.
Bring a friend, and this is one of those events that is a joyous event full of love and passion and happiness. And if you come and you want to dance, get up and dance. You want to sing, sing, clap, clap. This is not one of those concerts where they hand out candies before it starts so that in case you get a cough, you don't disturb the performers. So please relax, come and enjoy, and be prepared for a fantastic weekend full of fabulous music.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chip.